It is the last week of region play in high school football in the Alabama High School Athletic Association, and we'll cover all the big region games coming up next on Before the Game. It's Before the Game, presented by Northeast Orthopedics on a Thursday night. John Holder, Tommy Wood with you, previewing all the big games going on across East Alabama high school football, both tonight and tomorrow night. Tommy, this is the big, in a lot of ways, this will probably wind up being the biggest week of the regular season. So many impactful games coming up across East Alabama tonight and tomorrow night.
So many teams still have an eye on the playoffs, want to get there. They need one more win. This weekend is huge, and some of them are setting up even for a 10th week to make the decision as far as if they get in the playoffs or not. But, man, there are so many great contests this weekend.
We don't want to say that everything is going to be decided tonight and tomorrow night, because a lot of these games will just set the stage for games that are non-region games that will go to tie breaks potentially. So there's still a lot to be decided. One of those games that we're going to be talking about a lot that's going to be very impactful, Tommy, is in Class 3A Region 6, and that's the Battle of 278 East. It's Piedmont, it's Hoax Bluff playing at the Field of Champions in Piedmont, 3A Region 6. All kinds of playoff implications in this one. The bottom line is, if you're a Piedmont Bulldog fan, the Bulldogs have to win against Hoax Bluff.
Yeah, got to get a win. Hoax Bluff can nail down the third spot, but on the other side, you got Piedmont. They played really well against Geraldine last week, had a chance to tie it with a little over 7 minutes left, but two late Geraldine touchdowns pulled them away. They get the win, but you're right, Piedmont's got to get a win at home tomorrow night.
White Plains lost a tough game last week in the toughest of ways, at the goal line in overtime at the end of the game, to the Munford Lions. That means they need to win either this game against Jacksonville coming up tomorrow night at Golden Eagle Stadium, or they could be pushed into a must-win situation at home against Westbrook Christian next week. Either way, White Plains has got to win a football game one of these next 2 weeks to get into the state playoffs for the first time in 29 years. You see the graphic right there. Jacksonville has never lost to the Wildcats. They are 10-0. Number 7 Jacksonville playing some good football right now. Tough task for White Plains.
Well, you talk about Jacksonville. We talked about their offense all season, and for good reason. They're averaging 50 points a game pretty much, especially the last few weeks. But one stat I found this week that was very interesting to me, the Golden Eagles defense is creating 3 turnovers a game, and that is huge to set your team up with a short field. On the other side, you got White Plains. Dylan Barksdale has become a weapon. P.J. Holloway had over 150 yards last week in that game. But, you know, this is a must-win situation for White Plains.
We will talk about a lot of games like this. We're going to talk about region championship games, home field advantage games, teams getting into the state playoffs, trying to jockey for second, third, or fourth, teams getting into the state playoffs or not. This is one of those games where home field advantage is at stake. Number 10, Oxford, off a loss to Clay Chalkville last week, come home to take on a Centerpoint team. Now, Centerpoint has 2 losses on the field, but they have a forfeit win over Pell City, so technically they're 7-1. It's a very good team as far as they have a lot of skill talent. This is an athletic team. It's a scary team. Oxford wins, or Centerpoint wins, either one. The winner is going to be the number 2 team in the region. The loser is going to be the number 3 team. Tommy, that's the difference between going on the road in the first round. The other region set, so this is the difference between Athens at home or going to Hartselle, which if you're Oxford, you've already been to Hartselle and lost to the Tigers. So we cannot diminish whatsoever the importance of this game at Lamar Field coming up tomorrow night.
Oh, it's absolutely huge. I mean, obviously you want to start off the playoffs at home, and especially when you look at the opponents that you're going to be facing. Oxford fell to Clay Chalkville last week, but keep in mind it was a very close game. When you look back, the Yellow Jackets had a fumble return for a touchdown, then Clay Chalkville blocked a punt that set up a short field. You look at Centerpoint, and quietly at 7-1, we talked about the Pell City loss, but also the only other loss was to Clay Chalkville. So quietly, they've had a great year as well.
Well, we're going to have highlights of that game, highlights of that White Plains-Jacksonville game, highlights of that Piedmont-Hoax Bluff game, all coming up on After the Game at 10 o'clock tomorrow night right here on Facebook and YouTube. Another game, not really, this is one of the few games around the region, Tom, that really doesn't have playoff implications. Walter Welborn's already won the region championship. Sachs is not going to the playoffs. This is just a rival game playing for pride. Welborn, of course, would like to continue building momentum for the playoffs. And, hey, they would like to finish not only as the region champion, but also undefeated in region play.
Well, and Coach Jeff Smith's done another remarkable job this season. They've won 6 straight. You got Jabari Williams over 200 yards again last week, and Jeff Smith gets his 100th win there at the Hill. So Welborn really rolling toward the playoffs. This is where you try to fine-tune your team. Sachs, on the other hand, they had an off week last week. They got to try and find some defense. They're giving up 42 points a game, and Welborn loves to run that football.
Very quietly, a lot of people, I think, forgetting about the Anniston Bulldogs. Anniston goes over to Heflin to the pit to take on the Cleburne County Tigers. Cleburne County still certainly alive for a playoff berth. If they could pull the upset over Anniston, that would just about do it right there. They wouldn't have to wait until next week and all these non-region games and tiebreakers and all of those things. But Anniston playing some pretty good football. 54 points last week on offense, 0 points they gave up on defense. Cleburne County and Anniston, bit of a rival game over at Heflin.
Oh, yeah, they're ready to get after one another, and you know that. Damon Pope last week, a good week at quarterback for Anniston, 5 of 5 on the night, so you can't be much better than that. And Anniston can sew up the 3rd spot in this region, which is very important. And Cleburne County, again, wanting to get a win so that they know that they're in the playoffs, trying to pull off the upset. Cleburne County can finish anywhere. We talked about it yesterday, anywhere from 3rd to out of the playoffs. They are desperate for a win. They want to try to get one against the Bulldogs.
Speaking of 3rd or out of the playoffs, this next team coming up in Calhoun County is in that exact same situation, Tommy. They've got a road game. They're going on the road to Rainsville to take on the Plainview Bears. Plainview not going to be in the playoff picture. Their season will pretty much be over at the end of the regular season. But Ohatchee's in that deal. Depending on how they come out with Plainview and how these other games turn out, they could finish anywhere from 3rd to 4th to not in the playoffs at all. So obviously, this is a huge road game for the Indians as they go to Rainsville.
Well, Plainview is playing much better. I mean, you look at their season. I know they says 2-6, but last week played Westbrook Christian very tough, fell to 42-35, but played really well. Ohatchee, Nate Jones over 200 yards rushing, a few touchdowns last week, and 11 stops on defense. Ohatchee's got to find a way to win this game to keep those playoff hopes and just continue to jockey for position.
Well, this game doesn't have any kind of playoff implications, but right now you've got two teams that desperately, for obvious reasons, they need a win, Tommy. Alexandria and Talladega. Alexandria 0-9, believe it or not. Talladega coming in at 0-8. This game will be at Lucascale Stadium at Death Valley in Alexandria. Alexandria, I believe the last time that they had a winless season, you have to go back to 1948. So obviously they're trying to avoid that dubious distinction and not have a winless season. Same thing going on for Bill Smith and the guys there at Talladega. Head coach of the Alexandria Valley Cubs, Coach Todd Ginn, will join us tomorrow night on After the Game.
Well, in Alexandria, again, they're not used to this. This is something that's very new to the Valley Cubs, trying to get a win. Last week played pretty well against against Southside, but did give up some big plays as they fall in that one. On the other side, you got Talladega. They've dropped 19 straight. Both of these teams, you look here at the end of the year, they both need something good to happen to them.
Another game with playoff implications. Now, this won't be for home field advantage. This will be just trying to get in the state playoffs. Weaver and Beulah out at Bill Bryan Stadium. Beulah certainly alive for a playoff berth, and Weaver actually still alive for a playoff berth as well, trying to create some tie-breaking situations and things like that. This is a game, Beulah's much improved, but Weaver is as well. This is a game that Weaver is certainly capable of winning. They won the game last year down in Lee County at home. Right now, I think Weaver's playing some pretty good football.
I think so, too. And, Ken Kofer's done an amazing job there as head coach, because here we are in week 9. We're still talking about Weaver with a chance to make the playoffs. It's been a while since that happened. Beulah's kind of stumbling toward the finish line here. Weaver with a good chance here to get a win and stay in the playoff picture.
Well, we have not only just region games going on, we actually have some state playoff action actually going on already, Tommy. We're talking about a team that has been so impressive this year. Jacksonville Christian, the Thunder, they're undefeated. They are 8-0. Tuscaloosa Christian coming to town. They've already beaten Tuscaloosa Christian early in the season. I think it was 48-36 down at Tuscaloosa Christian. So what's trying to happen here is if JCA, this is the semifinals of the Christian Football Association. If they can win this game, they will be in their basically state championship, or if you want to call it a conference championship game next week. That would be at Tuscaloosa Christian. They have a, maybe not a neutral site, but a set predetermined site for their state championship game. JCA trying to take that record to 9-0 against Tuscaloosa Christian.
Well, and if you ask any coach, they say, hey, we hate playing a team twice in a year. So, JCA got the win earlier this season. Tuscaloosa Christian has gotten red hot down the stretch. They're averaging about 60 points a game over the last 4 weeks. So, offensively, they're hitting on all cylinders. JCA trying to make it to that championship game.
One of the good stories in high school football in East Alabama this year has been the story of the Pleasant Valley Raiders. Tommy, this is a team that has not been to the state playoffs in 13 years. They're trying to get to the state playoffs. They're going to be in the state playoffs, and they're going to go in, it looks like, as the number 3 seed out of Class 2A Region 6. They have the Gaston Bulldogs coming in. Pleasant Valley trying to build some momentum, but Pleasant Valley taking on Gaston tomorrow night. Just a real good thing, a really good year, a nice year that's set up for Jonathan Nix and the Raiders.
That's right, and they can lock up a number 3 spot if they can get the win over Gaston coming up tomorrow night. And Pleasant Valley, again, a great story in our area. Looking forward to see how they do in the playoffs. And Gaston, we talked about a couple of teams that have stumbled toward the end of the season. They're being outscored by about 100 points over the last several games, so they are struggling toward the finish line. Pleasant Valley trying to get that momentum as we head into the postseason.
You know, some of these teams have not had great seasons. You know, they're trying to just win on a strong note, get some momentum going into the offseason. That's the story with this game coming up right here. There's no playoff implications. One of the few games this week with no playoff implications. That's the game between Ranburne and Central of Coosa. That will be down in Hanover at Central of Coosa. It goes, Central's a little bit better than last year. Ranburne having a tough season as well. It's a very tough region. Top of that region, folks like B.B. Comer, ranked number 1 in the state, Vincent, Isabella, Thorsby. It's a tough, tough region, but these two teams trying to, as we talked about, Tommy, trying to build some momentum as they go into the offseason.
Well, I mean, Ranburne misses the playoffs, and you see those 5 losses there. I'm pretty sure that they led at some point in 4 of those 5 losses, sometimes in the second half and even the fourth quarter. Just couldn't finish the deal. But quarterback Cade Garrett, he's a senior, has had an outstanding season for the Bulldogs. He'll lead them again tomorrow night. Central Coosa got off to a pretty good start. They had a couple of wins early in the season and then have kind of fallen off the radar toward the end. But another matchup, but you've got to try to end with a win and get into the offseason.
Let's tell you about Northeast Orthopedics bringing you before the game. Northeast Orthopedics, locations all across Northeast Alabama, Calhoun, Etowah, Cherokee, Marshall, DeKalb counties. They have their Saturday morning sports clinic. They open the doors at their Gadsden office at 7:15. The clinic begins at 7:30. This is for volleyball, this is cross country, this is football players, any of the high school athletes that need attention. They're going to keep you moving. That's what they're trying to do, is keep you in action and keep you in the game and try to keep that going. And I know this time of year, every coach I talk to, they are having lots of bumps and bruises and injuries. So if you fall in that category, Saturday morning, 7:30, Northeast Orthopedics, keeping you in motion. And we will be back as we continue with more of High School Football Alabama's Before the Game.
Whether you're cheering for your team or chasing a personal fitness goal, nothing is more frustrating than an injury that keeps you from the things you love. At Northeast Orthopedics, we understand that life is constantly moving, and we are committed to making sure you keep moving as well. No matter your orthopedic need, Northeast Orthopedics has you covered with 6 convenient locations and 7 highly skilled surgeons. Visit us at northeastorthopedics.com for more information. Northeast Orthopedics, keeping you in motion.
Dedication to the people of this area and involvement in the issues that matter most to his constituents. These are the characteristics of State Representative Randy Wood. Randy was a small business owner for almost 4 decades. He's a member of the Weaver Lions Club, Fraternal Order of Police, and served 6 years in the Alabama National Guard. State Representative Randy Wood, proudly serving the people of District 36 since 2002.
It's been almost a year since East Alabama Now Local News began telling you what was happening in your community and on your street.
That's right. Local makes such a difference. And the great part is you can participate with us. Every weekday evening around 6:30 on either Facebook or YouTube, East Alabama Now Local News comes straight to you. Be sure to join us. Visit us on our Facebook page or our YouTube page. It's not local without you. Your news on your schedule.
Alabama Teachers Credit Union bringing you high school football Alabamas before the game. Go see ATCU in person. They have branches all over the place. They're in Calhoun, they're in DeKalb, Cherokee, Marshall, Etowah counties. Go and see all those fine folks at Alabama Teachers Credit Union. Visit them at atcu.com. If you live in any of those counties I just mentioned and you're a student, you live there, you work there, you can join Alabama Teachers Credit Union. Fantastic rates on car loans and all kinds of other loans as well. Check them out. Great website at atcu.com. Alabama Teachers Credit Union bringing you before the game and also bringing you our bottom line. They bring you the bottom line with all the scores on Friday nights as you see on After the Game. John Holder, Tommy Wood back with you on High School Football Alabamas before the game, presented by Northeast Orthopedics, previewing every game going on across East Alabama. We're going to pick, we left off the last segment with Class 2A Region 4. We're going to pick back up with Class 2A Region 4. Woodland and Isabella, not a game that's got a lot of playoff implications. Isabella really needs to win because there's a possibility they could be in a tie-break situation, so they certainly don't need to lose the game. Woodland will not be in the state playoffs this year. So two teams kind of going a little bit opposite directions to end this 2023 campaign.
Yeah, and Woodland would love to steal a win here in the region as he close out the year. But talking to the radio crew from Woodland last week, he felt like that they played probably one of their best games they played in the last couple of years against Fayetteville. They got the win last Friday night, so they would love to continue that momentum and get this win. But you've got an Isabella team that is really good, got a chance to move up to the third spot in that region as they are headed for the playoffs. But an interesting matchup right here.
Tommy, we mentioned there's going to be a number of these games. We've talked about a couple of them already. Here's one, home field advantage on the line in the playoffs. And this is it. The winner's going to be at home in the first round. The loser's going to be on the road. And Tommy, when you start talking about 3A football, this is huge because you're talking about not only being on the road in the first round if you finish third, but you're going a long way down to Southwest Alabama, and there's very good football teams in Class 3A Region 1. So Randolph County and Dadeville down at Ron Waters Field, Hewlin Humphrey Stadium coming up tomorrow night. Winner stays at home, loser goes on the road.
And both of those places are tough places to play. I mean, when you talk about Randolph County and the tradition that they have there, last week against Beulah, a very tight game, 2 pick sixes late in the game, pulled away from the Bobcats to get Randolph County the win. On the other side, you got Dadeville really playing their best football of the year right now. From folks that have seen them play in the last couple of weeks, they say, hey, they're starting to really peak at the right time. So another good matchup in Class 3A.
We'll have some highlights of this game coming up tomorrow night. And again, this is maybe not on the face of it the most impactful game. Handley, number 6 in the state in Class 4A, has already wrapped up the Class 4A Region 4 title. But Munford, I guess technically, still alive, getting into tie breaks and things like that for a playoff berth. Certainly, hey, if they could upset Handley, that would kind of like we talked about with White Plains and with Heflin. If they could somehow upset Handley, that would do the trick. They'd be in the playoffs.
Absolutely, and big win last week for Munford, that overtime win over White Plains, and Tank Edmondson. They still lean on that guy, and he's getting play after play and making some things happen offensively. You talk about Handley. The running game was so good early in the year with E.J. Goss. Now Cannon Kyles is starting to throw the football better. The receivers have adapted to him. That's where the weakness was for Handley at the beginning of the year. The receivers were all new. So again, Cannon Kyles is starting to hit his targets. They're becoming a very balanced offense, and that makes a very dangerous team in Class 4A.
Not only has Handley wrapped up a region title, their neighbors right down the road on Highway 22, they have also wrapped up a region title. Talking about the Wadley Bulldogs, number 7 team in the state in Class 1A, traveling to Howells Cove to take on Talladega County Central, who's better this year, Tommy. They broke the long losing streak earlier. They've won a couple of football games, but Wadley, you just feel like kind of trying to keep the momentum going. as they are a team that's expected to make a deep playoff run in the North in Class 1A.
Yeah, you always say we just got to stay healthy, but with Wadley, that's what they're really looking at right now. Talladega County Central played Raglan last week. They just could not match their physicality. Now you turn the page to Wadley, who's just as physical as the Purple Devils. So again, a tough matchup for TC here to wind up the region season.
As you see on our scoreboard there, Wadley has beaten TCC 11 consecutive times. Tommy, another team. We're talking 3 teams here in a row that have wrapped up region titles. Central Clay County, number 3 team in the state in 5A. They're 8-0. They're done with region play. Their region is set. They're totally done. And Central Clay County is the region champion. They've got 2 non-region games coming up, beginning this week with Russell County coming into Volunteer Stadium.
Yeah, and Russell County really gave the Volunteers all they wanted last year before Central won 26-14. So I'm sure that's gotten the attention of Coach Danny Horn and his staff. Speaking of Coach Danny Horn, going for win number 350 of his career tomorrow night at home. Got an outstanding running back, LaDamian Boyd, now with over 1,400 yards and 21 touchdowns for the Volunteers.
Tommy, we get to this time of year late in the season, and we have a lot of teams that move their games to Thursday nights, get a lot of Thursday night games. We got a number of Thursday games, and for some reason, mostly involving teams in Talladega County. This is one of those Thursday games. Number 1, BB Comer at home tonight at Legion Stadium in Sylacauga, taking on next-door neighbor Fayetteville. Of course, BB Comer, another team. This is, I guess, 4 teams in a row now that we've talked about that have wrapped up region titles.
Well, BB Comer has outscored their opponents by more than 300 points this year, so they are playing great on both sides of the football. Cam Hammonds for Fayetteville, he's the one good weapon for the Wolves. Had a good night last week, and they led Woodland for a while, but ended up falling to the Bobcats. But taking on a BB Comer team that is really playing at a high level right now.
Yeah, and here's another game that is hugely important, and it's tonight at Winterboro. Basically, Tommy, this is one of those games where the winner is in the state playoffs and the loser will stay at home. This is it. This is the season tonight for Winterboro and Victory Christian.
And it doesn't get much bigger than that. I mean, that's pretty much what you play for, is a chance to get to the postseason. It all comes down to this game tonight. Winterboro, it's been a while since they've made it to the postseason. Victory Christian's been 2019 since they've made it. So, again, you're talking about 2 teams that are hungry to get to the postseason. That's going to be a battle tonight.
Well, there's more Thursday night football action coming up involving teams from Talladega County, and we're going to continue looking at those. This one is a little bit different because the Alabama School for the Deaf is they're in Knoxville, Tennessee, taking on the Tennessee School for the Deaf tonight. Tennessee School for the Deaf 4-1, ASD at 3-4, a Thursday night game. Tennessee School for the Deaf is going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of a National Deaf School Championship that they had back in the 1973 season. Here's my question. Does the winner of Tennessee versus Alabama School for the Deaf, being there in Knoxville, does the winner of that, do they smoke cigars? I guess they can't because these are minors. But right. I wonder if they maybe chew on a cigar or something like that.
Those old candy ones, the gums we used to have.
There you go.
There, you could do that. Tennessee's playing well offensively. They've had over 120 points the last 2 weeks. ASD, of course, in California last week, were playing well.
It didn't go well.
And then 30 points they gave up in the second quarter to lose that game. But again, now on the road again, ASD, they are accumulating all these travel miles here this season.
Man, if they got those Southwest Rapid Rewards points, man, I tell you, they got an account. They're wrapping it up because they were in Fremont, California last week. They're not flying to Knoxville, but they are traveling a long way up to Knoxville to take on the Tennessee School for the Deaf. Again, that is another Thursday night game. Here's another game in Talladega County, and this one, you start looking at this, Lincoln and Leeds tonight. Not tonight, but a very interesting game going on at Keith Howard Memorial Stadium over in Lincoln. Let's talk about Lincoln and number 7 Leeds.
Well, that loss to Lincoln last week to fall to St. Clair County was crucial because there was really no way to make the playoffs at this point. You got Leeds on the other hand. What a win over Moody. They're on a big-time high. Coach Jerry Hood's got his team playing well. They block a field goal late. So Leeds is playing really well. Connor Nelson, the quarterback, is leading them. Again, Leeds starting to get that momentum heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, that was a costly loss for Lincoln last week to St. Clair County because basically it cost them a playoff berth, or at least a chance of getting into the state playoffs. Pell City, interesting team here. This is another Thursday night game. This one has been switched to Thursday. They'll play at Willie Adams Stadium over in Pinson tonight. Pell City 1-6 there, actually 2-5 on the field. There's still rumblings. There may be an appeal to that loss to Centerpoint. Combine that with a win against Pinson Valley, and that could really shake things up in Class 6A Region 6.
Yeah, Pell City still got a shot to get to the playoffs, and again, a win against Pinson Valley would be huge. Of course, Pinson Valley, if they get the win, they're in. So, as we said at the top of the show, a lot of these games are coming down to this one game, and tonight and tomorrow night will be big nights for high school football.
And they don't get it any bigger than this. This is as big as any game in East Alabama coming up tomorrow night. It's a top 10 matchup. It is for basically the region title. It certainly is for Southside. If Southside can go into Moody and win this game against the Blue Devils, they will wrap up the Class 5A Region 6 title. If they lose, it goes into tiebreakers, but it appears, Tommy, that even in the tiebreakers, Southside still wins. But this is a huge game coming up. This is one of the biggest games that Southside, to be honest with you, this is probably the biggest game that Southside's played in about a decade or so, I would think, against Moody. Just a huge game going on over at Moody.
And I feel like we say it every year, every week, but what a season for Southside to lose Gage Neesmith early. They're still in playoff contention. Again, you got Mason Teague, 200 yards last week for Southside. On the other side, Charlie Johnston's done a great job at quarterback for Moody, so a couple of good offensive stars in this one.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a lot of big games still to talk about, not only here in East Alabama, but statewide games as well coming up as we continue with High School Football Alabama's Before the Game, presented by Northeast Orthopedics.
Dedication to the people of this area and involvement in the issues that matter most to his constituents. These are the characteristics of State Representative Randy Wood. Randy was a small business owner for almost 4 decades. He's a member of the Weaver Lions Club, Fraternal Order of Police, and served 6 years in the Alabama National Guard. State Representative Randy Wood, proudly serving the people of District 36 since 2002.
It's been almost a year since East Alabama Now Local News began telling you what was happening in your community and on your street.
That's right. Local makes such a difference. And the great part is you can participate with us. Every weekday evening around 6:30 on either Facebook or YouTube, East Alabama Now Local News comes straight to you. Be sure to join us. Visit us on our Facebook page or our YouTube page. It's not local without you. Your news on your schedule.
Whether you're cheering for your team or chasing a personal fitness goal, nothing is more frustrating than an injury that keeps you from the things you love. At Northeast Orthopedics, we understand that life is constantly moving, and we are committed to making sure you keep moving as well. No matter your orthopedic need, Northeast Orthopedics has you covered with 6 convenient locations and 7 highly skilled surgeons. Visit us at northeastorthopedics.com for more information. Northeast Orthopedics, keeping you in motion.
High School Football Alabama Before the Game on a Thursday night, presented by Northeast Orthopedics. John Holder, Tommy Wood with you, continuing to preview games all across East Alabama. Here's another game that has huge playoff implications because it's pretty simple right here, Tommy. Another game in 5A Region 6. We left off just talking about Southside and Moody. This game, the winner goes to the state playoffs. The loser stays at home. St. Clair County, after that big win that we talked about over Lincoln, taking on Springville. This is a big rival game. These two schools about 10 miles apart, and everything on the line. The season, Tommy, comes down to this.
Well, and Springville played really well against Lincoln last week as they, again, had a big win there. St. Clair County, they've won 2 of their last 3, so they're starting to peak at the right time as well. This should be a good matchup, and again, everything's on the line.
Well, we have 2 extremes coming up in this next game that will also be taking place in St. Clair County. Ken Logan Stadium in Asheville Tommy, two teams that are really, there's no other way to say it, they're just at the extreme right now of the seasons. You got the Asheville Bulldogs, who haven't won a game. You've got Cherokee County, the number 2 team in the state in 4A, who haven't lost a game. One team's 0-8. The other team is 8-0.
Well, and you talk about Asheville seeing improvement throughout the year. The highest point total last week against Aniana, they were able to put up some yards and get some points on the board, so that's got to boost their confidence. But now you take on a Cherokee County team, and so like you said, they're just at another level right now. Jacob Cornejo, 274 yards last week. The defense is playing well for Cherokee County too. Right now, Cherokee just looks head and shoulders above a lot of folks in this class.
Tommy, I used the word throughout the year, sneaky good games. I'm not going to use that with this next game because this is a good game. It's not sneaky good. It is going to be one of the best games, I think, in the state coming up in any class as far as competitiveness goes. And there's a lot on the line again. This is basically home field advantage in the playoffs, which is huge, especially when you start looking at who might be coming to town here, starting to look at the playoff brackets. Spring Garden at home, Jason Howard Field taking on Raglan. Two really solid Class 1A football teams. The winner is going to be at home in the first round of the playoffs. The loser is going to be on the road. This is a big game.
Yeah, absolutely. And two good running backs going head-to-head here. Jacob Welsh for Spring Garden last week, over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, doing it all for the Panthers. On the other side, you got Raglan. Aaron Lee is a sophomore. Look for him in the next 2 years to be one of the highest ranked running backs in our area. He has put together a very good sophomore season, and he's got a very bright future.
Tommy, we have 8 teams here in East Alabama that we cover every week. This is their last game of the regular season coming up this week. Some of those will be going on to the state playoffs, but there's a couple of teams that this is it. The season ends tomorrow night. One of those teams, the Sandrock Wildcats. They're not going to the state playoffs. This is their last regular season game. They're going to Huntsville to face Whitesburg Christian. But again, for Allen Heath and Sandrock, the Sandrock's playing pretty well right now. And if Sandrock can go and probably get a win, I think they can at Whitesburg. That's a chance to go into the offseason on a positive note.
Love the story of Kane Robinson for Sandrock. He started off the season as a guard. They brought him in on a couple of heavy packages, and the coaches got to looking at how well he ran the football. Now he's the starting tailback and had over 160 yards last week, playing extremely well. On the other side, Whitesburg Christian defensively has never gotten it put together all season. They've only held 3 of their opponents to under 40 points.
Well, we've got 2 teams here in Class 1A that are, just to be honest with you, they're in opposite directions right now. We got one team, their season is ending. That's the Galesville Trojans. And then you got the Valley Head Tigers, who have already wrapped up a home field advantage berth in the state playoffs. Valley Head playing very well. They started off the season a little shaky, but last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, Valley Head has played very well. 2 old rivals here, but Valley Head has dominated the series, as you see there. They've won 10 of the last 11 meetings. Galesville going to Valley Head.
Well, and Galesville has struggled offensively this year, only 44 points on the season, so really unable to get anything on track to put points on the board. On the other side, you got Valley Head. They're playing well defensively. Held Woodville down last week to 160 yards, and like 72 of that was on one play. So you know that Valley Head is playing some good defense.
Another game just down the road. You got a game that's also in this same Class 1A Region 7. Cedar Bluff and Appalachian. Again, some playoff positioning here at stake in this game as Cedar Bluff trying to get in the state playoffs with a win. They've got to beat Appalachian. Appalachian trying to jockey for position here in Class 1A Region 7. Cedar Bluff was in a kind of a must-win last year against Appalachian, and now they're in a must-win again this year against the Eagles.
Cedar Bluff comes off of that 94-7 loss to Coosa Christian a couple of weeks ago, so had an open week last week to kind of get things back on track. Appalachian, just wanted to share this story. If you hadn't heard, Appalachian falls to Coosa Christian 51-0. After the game, the Coosa Christian bus wouldn't start, so Coach Neil Whittington, head coach at Appalachian, stays up and drives the team back to Coosa Christian. Just a show of class right there, and that's what high school football is all about. But he drives them back, got home about 2:45 in the morning, and again, stories like that you always like to hear. Class act by Coach Neil Whittington.
It's what makes high school football special here in the great state of Alabama. Let's move down and talk about some teams in Etowah County now. Glencoe and Geraldine coming up. Let's talk about this Glencoe-Geraldine game that is taking place. That game will be at Glencoe. Of course, Geraldine on cruise control. They're the number 9 team in the state. and having a phenomenal season. Glencoe struggling right now. This is another game in Class 3A, Region 6. Geraldine, for the most part, this is not any kind of playoff implications. Glencoe's not going to the playoffs. Glencoe is, I should say, Geraldine is a team, though, that already has home field advantage wrapped up. They'll be the number 2 team in the region.
And also, if you get a chance to watch quarterback Jackson Colvin of Geraldine, he is a powerful runner, had over 200 yards last week in their win. Glencoe defensively unable to really get stops right now. They've given up more than 52 points to their last 3 opponents.
Westbrook and Sylvania, again, kind of like the Geraldine game and the Glencoe game. This is a game where Westbrook is not going to be in the state playoffs in Steve Smith's first year, but this is a dangerous team. But number 8 Sylvania is really good. Westbrook's never beaten the Rams. They're going to be a heavy underdog as Sylvania rolls into Westbrook Christian to take on the Warriors. Sylvania will be a heavy favorite. They've already wrapped up another team that's wrapped up a region title. And when you wrapped up the region title in that region, in Class 3A, Region 6, you've done something.
Well, Sylvania's second region title in 20 years, so you know how hard this region is to win. Sylvania with a big win on that. But you talk about Westbrook Christian, the strides that they've made this year. Grayson Carroll, the quarterback, has turned into really the perfect quarterback for Coach Steve Smith's system. But again, they're going to face a tough one coming up against Sylvania.
We continue looking at teams in Etowah County, and to be honest with you, Tommy, there's been a lot of buzz about this particular team right here all season long. It seems like all the way back in August there was buzz about Coosa Christian, the way they played on the field. Then some off the field things happened, some forfeits here, both games they had to forfeit, games they received forfeits from. It's been an interesting roller coaster of a season for Coosa Christian. Now they've got Woodville coming into town. Coosa Christian and Woodville jockeying now because, Coosa Christian with those forfeits, they're still trying to decide whether they're going to be 3rd or 4th. Coosa Christian, if they beat Woodville, they could be as high as number 3 in Class 1A Region 7.
Well, and they're going to win it on the defensive side of the ball. I know they scored 94 a couple of weeks ago, but I want to talk about their defense because they've not given up. They've only given up 39 points this entire season. That's how dominant the defense for Coosa Christian has been. Woodville on the other side got a good quarterback in Sam Peak, but again, they're just trying to find a way to get in the playoffs and make something happen. But Coosa Christian right now is playing, again, as I say about several teams, they're at a high level right now as we start approaching the playoffs.
Another team that has wrapped up a region title already, and all region play is done in Class 6A Region 8. Gadsden City, the Titans will be at home against Calera. This is the regular season finale for the Titans. They've got a chance to finish 7-3, and they will be at home in the first round of the 6A playoffs coming up in just a couple of weeks. They'll have an open date next week, so good scheduling by Ali Smith to get a couple of weeks of rest before you get into those Class 6A state playoffs. They've got a Calera team who hasn't won a game coming to Titan Stadium.
Yeah, they're not playing very well at all right now. They're giving up 44 points a game, only scoring 7. So, again, you're talking about a Calera team that's had a tough year for the Eagles. Gadsden City, right now at this point, you just want to, like you said, get some rest, stay healthy, keep that focus as you start getting ready for the playoffs. But what a year for the Titans.
The Etowah Blue Devils are in non-region play. Actually, a few teams around the state that are in non-region play, and they are in non-region play this week as they travel down 278 to take on Coleman team, a Coleman team that's in 6A. They're 6-3. Etowah's going to be in the Class 4A state playoffs. They got Coleman this week and Southside next week. So Etowah is, you want to get momentum going into the state playoffs. I don't know that this is the schedule to do it with Coleman and Southside coming up.
It's tough on the back end. I'm going to tell you, when you start looking at the schedule, the way that it's really been tough right here down the stretch. But credit to Etowah. I mean, you look at it, what a chaotic season they've had. And early in the year, things were on the struggle bus. They have really improved as the season's gone on. On the other side, you got a Coleman team that took on undefeated Muscle Shoals last week and were only down 6 at halftime before the Trojans able to come back and put that one away. But Coleman's playing a little better down here at the final few weeks as well.
Well, when we come back, we're going to be talking a whole lot more about everything going on in East Alabama, a couple more games, and then we got a ton of statewide games to talk about. But let me tell you about EAN News. We're going to talk with Namath Pitts a little bit later. He's going to be coming up next in a couple of moments on our show, and he's going to have Pitts Pick'ems. He's going to be doing that on the road, and he's on the road with the folks at EAN News because he's bringing you a great coverage of sports all across East Alabama. He is in Huntsville covering sports for EAN Local News at the regionals in volleyball. And not only that, but all your local news. You got Mike Stedham, you got Katie Edwards bringing you all the local news here in East Alabama every weekday evening. I'll be along with a weather forecast. I got a great weather forecast coming for you. Watch coming up tomorrow because I'll tell you about summertime returning back here to East Alabama. All of that on EAN Local News. Go to East Alabama Now. Check out EAN Local News on Facebook and also on YouTube and all the social media channels. We'll be back as we continue previewing games here on Before the Game, presented by Northeast Orthopedics.
Dedication to the people of this area and involvement in the issues that matter most to his constituents. These are the characteristics of State Representative Randy Wood. Randy was a small business owner for almost 4 decades. He's a member of the Weaver Lions Club, Fraternal Order of Police, and served 6 years in the Alabama National Guard. State Representative Randy Wood, proudly serving the people of District 36 since 2002.
It's been almost a year since East Alabama Now Local News began telling you what was happening in your community and on your street.
That's right. Local makes such a difference. And the great part is you can participate with us. Every weekday evening around 6:30 on either Facebook or YouTube, East Alabama Now Local News comes straight to you. Be sure to join us. Visit us on our Facebook page or our YouTube page. It's not local without you. Your news on your schedule.
Whether you're cheering for your team or chasing a personal fitness goal, nothing is more frustrating than an injury that keeps you from the things you love. At Northeast Orthopedics, we understand that life is constantly moving, and we are committed to making sure you keep moving as well. No matter your orthopedic need, Northeast Orthopedics has you covered with 6 convenient locations and 7 highly skilled surgeons. Visit us at northeastorthopedics.com for more information. Northeast Orthopedics, keeping you in motion.
If you have enjoyed Before the Game every Thursday night, well, we think you have. I hope you have, and you've enjoyed that. Tell State Representative Randy Wood how much you've enjoyed that. He's one of the people responsible for bringing you this show every Thursday night. State House Representative out of District 36, Representative Randy Wood, right here in East Alabama. I'll tell you, I've known Randy for many, many years. For 2 or 3 decades, I've personally known Randy Wood, and I can tell you, he's honest, dependable, fair-minded. He cares about this community, and he cares about the issues that affect our community here in East Alabama as well. State Representative Randy Wood out of District 36. John Holder, Tommy Wood back with you on Before the Game. High school football, Alabama on a Thursday night presented by Northeast Orthopedics. Couple more local games to look at. One of those in Class 2A, Region 6. This Locust Fork team coming into West End. Now, West End's going to be in the state playoffs. Locust Fork has wrapped up the region title. This is the best Locust Fork team ever. They've never been 9-0 before. They have a chance coming into Walnut Grove to go a perfect 10-0 for the first time in school history. You know, though, that West End would love to play spoiler in this situation, but it's a tough task. Locust Fork scores a lot of points.
Yeah, they're the number 1 offense in Class 2A with 55 points a game. Defensively, they're only number 5. They give up less than 7. West End, though, has won 4 straight, so they're playing good ball here at the end. But like you said, Locust Fork has a team that has really took care of business each and every week.
More playoff implications in this game. In Class 5A, Region 7, Sardis and Gunnersville at the Lions Den in Sardis. Everyone thought they had this region figured out until, Arab handed Gunnersville a loss, and Sardis is still hanging around for a state playoff berth. So this game is, 2 teams that they haven't played that much over the years, but they're close by. They're only about 15 miles apart there on Sand Mountain. Should be an interesting game at the Lions Den between Sardis and Guntersville, a good old-fashioned cat fight, if you will.
Well, and Sardis, if they want any shot at the playoffs, have got to have a win right here. This is a must-win for them to stay in the playoff picture. On the other side, you got Guntersville. It was a tough loss to Arab last week, but if they get a win here, that creates a three-way tie, and then you get into all the tiebreakers and all that fun stuff. So, again, Guntersville can jump back in the picture to try to win that region with a win over Sardis.
Yeah, Guntersville, Arab, Scottsboro involved in that three-way tie potentially that could happen. We mentioned, Tommy, some big games around the state of Alabama. Woo! This is a big week coming up. Let's begin in Class 1A down in southwest Alabama. Number 1 Leroy, number 4 Milry. They played twice last year, including in the state semifinals. Leroy beat Milry. Some folks consider that a mild upset. Okay, so here's Leroy and Milry again for the first time since that semifinal game, playing this time at Leroy. Number 1 versus number 4. These two teams are a combined 15-1, and they're both loaded again, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And that one loss was to Milry 5A Citronelle, who's a very good football team as well. So these two teams are dynamic teams. Leroy's last loss was to Milry back in the regular season. So again, they don't like each other too much. This is going to be a war.
We stay in Class 1A from southwest Alabama to northwest Alabama. Number 6 Lynn, number 8 South Lamar playing in Winston County at Lynn. These two teams, as you see there, coming in at a combined 13-3. Of course, obviously, we talked about that game between Leroy and Milry being for a region title. Here's another region title on the line between Lynn and South Lamar.
How did all the scheduling work out where it comes down to the final week of the region when the two contenders for the championship play each other? But you talk about Lynn. They're one of those teams that's built on speed. They're averaging 43 points a game. They love to spread you out. South Lamar wants to put you in a phone booth, and they're going to sit there and run right at you. A very physical team. So, again, contrast of styles in this big showdown.
I don't even know, Tommy, where to begin to talk about this next game. Class 2A, Reeltown and Highland Home. The Flying Squadron, number 2, coming in to take on number 4 Reeltown. Reeltown 8-0, Highland Home 9-0. This may be, and Highland Home's played a high level of football the last couple of years, but this might be the best of all these Highland Home teams they've had over the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, they went in and beat Luverne 60-0, a state-ranked at the time Luverne team. This game will be at Reeltown. I've seen Reeltown play in person. They are the real deal. From what we can understand, Highland Home obviously is the real deal. We talk about best games in the state. Tommy, this might be the best game in the state this week, regardless of classification.
I would love to have a seat on the 50-yard line watching these two battle, because you got Reeltown team that's the number 3 offense in the class, 47 points a game. On the other side, you got Highland Home, the number 1 defense in Class 2A. You got a star offensive player for Reeltown in Arthur Woods. You got Jacaleb Falk for Highland Home, who's already committed to Auburn as a defensive end. Again, two contrasting styles right there, because you've got a strong defense and a strong offense. It's going to be fun.
Wow. The games just keep getting bigger now. We're going to jump up now, and we're going to talk about this game in southwest Alabama in Class 3A. Number 1 Mobile Christian sliding in to the number 1 spot this week, taking on number 6 Thomasville. 9-0 Mobile Christian are the Leopards. Thomasville Tigers coming in at 7-0. We mentioned, to give this a local slant to it, 3A Region 4 matches up with 3A Region 1 in the first round of the playoffs. Somebody, maybe from up in this part of the state might have to go take on one of these two teams, and that's not going to be a whole lot of fun.
Well, Mobile Christian is the number 1 defense of any classification in the state. They've only allowed 21 points this entire season. They have played extremely well defensively. Thomasville has a strong running game. They love to rely on it. But again, it's going to be tough to move the football against Mobile Christian. The Leopards are just so tough defensively.
There would be people argue with me about the Reeltown Highland Home game not being the best game in the state. They would say that this next game is the best game in the state. Number 1 versus number 3 in Class 4A, defending state champion Andalusia and Montgomery Catholic. Both teams 9-0. They played twice last year. They played in the regular season. They played each other in the state semifinals, and they could, possibly play twice again. Who knows? This is a huge game in Montgomery. Tons of storylines in this game. Two great football teams, talent all over the place, SEC talent all over the place. You can make a good argument that this Andalusian Montgomery Catholic game is maybe the best game in the state as well.
Well, Montgomery Catholic defensively, as we said, 6 shutouts on the season. I mean, they are dominating folks on the defensive side of the ball, and always such a world of talent on the offensive side as well. Got a great quarterback that can get things done. Andalusia really has snowballed all over their competition. Their closest game has been 17 points this year, so Andalusia playing some really good football.
Let's move to Class 5A football. If you're a high school football fan, all eyes this week have been on Gulf Shores, and it's not because people are planning their vacations. No, there's all kinds of stories out there about ineligible players properly, AHSAA investigations and things like that around the Gulf Shores program, who, by the way, is #1 in the state in Class 5A. But eyes will not be on Gulf Shores this week just because of off the field. They'll also be on Gulf Shores this week because of on the field, because they've got #9 Viger coming into town. And this Class 5A Region 1, Tommy, is why I don't know that there's any region in the state right now as we sit here in Week 10 that is wilder right now with more varied playoff scenarios than what we're seeing out of Class 5A Region 1. Obviously, this game is going to be big as far as playoffs go. Viger and Gulf Shores.
Well, and the thing about it, too, is they play region games in Week 10. So this may not be decided until a couple of weeks from now until they start getting ready for the playoffs. But defensive end Brandon Purifoy for Viger is a great defensive lineman. He can really disrupt an offense. Also, there's an offensive lineman for Viger named Micah Dubose, who has got, right now he's a Georgia commit, still visiting around. But I believe he's in the 11th grade, but he is an outstanding football player. On the other side, Ronnie Royals got over 1,000 yards, closing in on it for Gulf Shores. But if Gulf Shores gets caught up in all the headlines and does not focus on Viger, the Wolves can jump up and bite you.
Tommy, 5A South, let's go 5A North. We got a big game in North Alabama, and this is a game between a tradition-rich team and a team that really doesn't have a lot of tradition. You got #10 Russellville at home. The Golden Tigers will be hosting the Fairview Aggies. Now, Fairview may not have the tradition that Russellville has, but Tommy, over the last 2 or 3 football seasons, Fairview has been really one of the better teams in North Alabama in Class 5A.
And it seems like every game we're talking about on a statewide level, there's a good offense and a good defense. Fairview used to be known for the offense. This year, they're known for the defense. They're allowing less than 7 points a game. On the other side, you've got a Russellville team that's the #1 offense in Class 5A.
Finally, our last game that we're going to take a look at is in Class 6A, and I'm just going to call them until further notice the Juggernaut. #1 Saraland, 8-0, taking on #9 Theodore. But as we've seen from past years in this Class 6A Region 1, Theodore is not intimidated at all by Saraland. As good as Saraland is, a lot of folks thinking this might be the best team in the state regardless of classification. Saraland will have their hands full with Theodore.
Yeah, I guarantee you that. Theodore beat them last year, so that's Saraland's only loss in the last 22 games. But the Spartans come in averaging 54 points a game. Like you said, they're a juggernaut, especially offensively, but that will be a battle to keep your eyes on this weekend.
Tommy, one more game to talk about. It's not going to be up on the screen there, but you tonight are going to be handling the PA duties, as he does so wonderfully, one of the top PA guys in the state of Alabama. You're going to be doing a state championship game tonight. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Clay County Christian Academy taking on First Assembly Christian. Both teams are located in Clay County. They won their semifinal games last week. The championship normally is played in Guntersville. However, both teams worked it out where they can play at the old Lineville High School football field, Upchurch Stadium there in Lineville. So they approached me about doing the PA for the game tonight and wanted somebody neutral. So I guess they settled for me, and we're going to go over there and check out some 6-man football.
And for old-timers like me and you, it'll be good to see high school football back at Upchurch Field.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time the lights are on, your Facebook post and everybody's lights it up because it's good to see the lights back on, and they're using that stadium for Little League games on Saturday, but to see a high school game there tonight.
Tommy, thank you so much. Tommy Wood with us. Don't go anywhere. Namath Pitts Pick'ems, live on location from Huntsville, but he's still going to pick the 10 games in Pitts Pick'ems presented by Big Woody's Tires in just a moment.
It's been almost a year since East Alabama Now Local News began telling you what was happening in your community and on your street.
That's right. Local makes such a difference. And the great part is you can participate with us. Every weekday evening around 6:30 on either Facebook or YouTube, East Alabama Now local news comes straight to you. Be sure to join us. Visit us on our Facebook page or our YouTube page. It's not local without you. Your news on your schedule.
Whether you're cheering for your team or chasing a personal fitness goal, nothing is more frustrating than an injury that keeps you from the things you love. At Northeast Orthopedics, we understand that life is constantly moving, and we are committed to making sure you keep moving as well. No matter your orthopedic need, Northeast Orthopedics has you covered with 6 convenient locations and 7 highly skilled surgeons. Visit us at northeastorthopedics.com for more information. Northeast Orthopedics, keeping you in motion.
Dedication to the people of this area and involvement in the issues that matter most to his constituents. These are the characteristics of State Representative Randy Wood. Randy was a small business owner for almost 4 decades. He's a member of the Weaver Lions Club, Fraternal Order of Police, and served 6 years in the Alabama National Guard. State Representative Randy Wood, proudly serving the people of District 36 since 2002.
Back on the final segment of high school football, Alabama's Before the Game. John Holder back with you on this Football Thursday night presented by Northeast Orthopedics. It is now time for Pitts Pick'ems presented by Big Woody's Tires. Let me set this up for you. Namath Pitts obviously is not live in studio. Namath, you are coming to us tonight from Huntsville. You are covering the North Regional for high school volleyball for the Alabama High School Athletic Association. So you're coming to us from the Rocket City of Huntsville. Good evening, and not only good evening, but tell us all about the folks at Big Woody's Tires to start us off on this Thursday night.
That's right, John. It's great to be with you again for another week. And Big Woody Tires, let me tell you about Big Woody Tires on Highway 202 in Anniston. It's the orange and black shop. And I got to tell you, Big Woody has some of the best prices. I had to go by there this past week and get my tire fixed personally. And so they have some of the best prices, but also they have some new tires, U tires. They got big tires, little tires. Literally any kind of tire, he's got it, truthfully. And if he don't have it, he can get it. So they do rim work. They can do minor brake work. Let me tell you, and Big Woody cares about the communities. He would not brag on himself, but I know that personally he made a donation this past week for local volleyball teams. So he truly cares about the communities. And Big Woody Tires is a proud supporter of high school football Alabama Before the Game.
Absolutely. Namath, your improvement was vast last week. You doubled the number of wins, winding up 8-2, and now for the season, you are sitting at 60-30. So that's 2 out of every 3 games you pick are correct. That's not bad, my friend.
It's not what I want, but, we'll take it. Like you said, 2 out of 3 means I'm bound to have that 10-0 week before the end of the season.
Well, let's see if we can get a 10-0 going. This is the last play, as we've been talking about here on Before the Game, and that means some very impactful games. That means probably some tough games to pick. Let's begin with a couple of games in Class 3A Region 6 that are huge. One of those is going to be a monumental game. Tons on the line at the Field of Champions in Piedmont, with Piedmont hosting Hoax Bluff.
Yeah, for Piedmont, this is a big game, obviously, but really the biggest game for them is a game they can't control, which is Ohatchee, because a 3-way tiebreaker still doesn't help Piedmont. But this is still a big opportunity to put yourself in a position, because if Ohatchee loses and you win, then you're in the playoffs as the 4 seed. But Hoax Bluff has played consistent all season long, and I think that Hoax Bluff is the better team, and I think Coach Mike Robertson's team wins the game.
Namath going with Hoax Bluff in that big battle of Highway 278 East up in Piedmont. You mentioned it, you alluded to that, Namath. Another big game going on in that same region in Class 3A Region 6 will be up on Sand Mountain at Rainsville, Plainview and Ohatchee.
Yeah, this is a big game for the Indians, probably the biggest game of the season. They have to win this game to make the playoffs. But if they win this game, it doesn't matter what happens between Piedmont and Hokes Bluffs. Because if Piedmont wins, then you get in a three-way tie, and Ohatchee gets third because that Wellborn wins really limit a lot of wins for them. And then if you win, and, of course, Hokes Bluff wins, you get fourth. So either way, Ohatchee wins, they're in the playoffs. And I do think they win this game. I know they've been injury-prone this year, but I'm going with Ohatchee.
Do you have a tomahawk chop for us from up in Huntsville?
I can give you a tomahawk chop right here, baby.
We're going to stay in Class 3A, but we're going to move to a different region. This is one of many games across East Alabama that is for home field advantage in the 3A playoffs. And with Region 4 matching up with Region 1, this is a huge game between Randolph County and Dadeville.
Yeah, this is a sneaky good game, John. And I got to be honest with you, I think this game's closer than people might expect. I think the Wellborn loss definitely dictated how Randolph County played for 3 quarters last week. They got the job done in the 4th quarter, but they're going to have to play a lot cleaner from start to finish to win this game. Dadeville's got really good athleticism, really good speed, but I'm going Pat Prestridge, and I'm still going with the Tigers.
He's picking Randolph County in that game. Another game that could have some playoff implications here. Interesting game, a game that's going on tonight, as a matter of fact. Pinson Valley playing host to Pell City in Class 6A Region 6.
Look, I like Rush Probst, but every single week this season, I've got sucked into picking them, and I get let down at the very end, and I'm not even risking it this week. I'm going Pinson Valley.
All right, let's talk about, there are still some games that are outright going to decide potentially a region championship. One of those is in Class 5A Region 6. It's going to be in Moody and Southside. For Southside, it's very simple. They go in, they win against the Moody Blue Devils, and they are going to win the region championship. Moody has already lost to Leeds. Southside has beaten Leeds. Can Southside win and go undefeated in region play?
John, I've been kind of hypocritical of Southside because in the very first week I said this is the year that Southside is going to get over the hump. You can go back and pull up the receipts. But then when Gage Neesmith went down, I picked them to lose every time. So something's got to give. I'm finally going with Miles Holcomb's team. No matter what happens in this game, they're going to be the #1 seed in the playoffs. I'm going with Southside. I really do think they win this game on the road.
Southside, it's hard to pick against them. If you picked against Southside, there's been a lot of opportunities to do that this year. You wind up on the losing side of things more often times than not, as Southside has been very impressive in Class 5A play. So he's rolling with the Panthers as they roll down I-20 to Moody. This next game, Namath, I'll just tell you, I think this is the toughest game, in my opinion. May not be for you, but in my opinion, I think this is the toughest game to pick on the board this week, and that is in Class 1A Region 6 at Spring Garden in Ragland. Again, this is very simple. The region title already wrapped up by Wadley, but this is for home field advantage in the playoffs, which is huge between Ragland and Spring Garden. Winner is going to be #2. The loser is going to be #3 in that region.
John, I know no team tries to lose a game on purpose, but Wakusa Christian come in the first round. I don't know if I'd want to be the 2 seed, but I guarantee you Barrett Ragsdale feels differently. If they hadn't turned the ball over, they had opportunities in that game to potentially win that game. And this is the moment that Spring Garden fans have been waiting for.
Here it comes. Are you going to pick the Garden?
Garden, go. I'm going with Spring Garden, baby. I really do think they're playing better football right now, and I think Spring Garden wins this game.
All right. I know you've been talking with Ricky Austin, the Spring Garden legendary basketball coach up there, and volleyball coach has his team up there. So maybe trying to get some good inside information on what's happening at the Garden. So Namath, Namath is finally picking Spring Garden. All right, let's talk about another game that has some playoff implications to the north in Class 5A, and that's a game between two kind of not exactly next door neighbors, but they are neighborhood rivals, Sardis and Guntersville.
John, I have not believed in Sardis not once since we started picking him earlier this season. And my granddad has been giving me crap. And he finally got a hearing aid this week, so he's going to be able to hear me tonight. He is a Guntersville Wildcat grad. And so, Granddad, I'm going with the Wildcats, baby. And I really do think they win.
Another game with a lot of playoff implications in Class 1A. This is in Class 1A Region 7. Cedar Bluff and Appalachian playing each other. And this is a game where Cedar Bluff certainly must win to even have a chance of getting into the playoffs. Appalachian trying to play for playoff seeding here.
Yeah, both these teams have been really up and down this season. Appalachian started strong, kind of went rough after that. Cedar Bluff's kind of been up and down. Obviously, Spring Garden was a big win for them. But, you know, when I look at this game, I really think it comes down to who can be more consistent. And I think Appalachian can be more consistent. But also, one of my friends coaches for Appalachian. So 2 shout-outs tonight. Shout out to John K. Robertson. I'm going with the Appalachian Eagles.
Appalachian over Cedar Bluff. So says Namath Pitts here on Pitts Pick'ems. Now, we also have a few games around the state that fall into this category, a category where the winner is in the state playoffs and the loser is staying home based on the outcome of a head-to-head contest. And this is that matchup taking place in St. Clair County between big rivals Springville and St. Clair County. St. Clair County, Namath, coming off that big upset win over Lincoln last week.
Yeah, and look, I don't like that logo for Springville. It looks like LSU. And so I'm kind of hesitant on that. But I got to be honest with you. It comes down to quarterback play. And Springville definitely has the better quarterback, in my opinion. And I'm going with the Tigers on the road to win against St. Clair County.
Finally, Namath, we always have a statewide game for you to pick, and there were a lot of choices this week. There's a lot of big games going on around the state in a lot of different classifications. But the one that I chose for you this week, this might be tougher than that Spring Garden Ragland game to pick. This is in Class 2A. It's a matchup between Reeltown and Highland Home.
Yeah, well, these teams have been, kind of 1-1 against each other in terms of the playoffs the past 2 years. I look at Reeltown, though, and I've seen them up close. They got 3 guys that can run the ball. This is a really good team, physical up front. I do think that Reeltown wins this game being at home. And I'm already looking ahead. I know Adam Fawcett's not going to like this, but right now they're locked in to play in the second round in Sylacauga. And I texted Coach Fawcett the other day, and I said, Coach, you got a tough road in front of you, And he said, we're ready. And I almost told him I need a Thursday night game, round 2, but I knew I shouldn't, so I didn't. But I'm going with Reeltown over Highland Home.
And Namath, the thing about this game is weird things happen in the playoffs, and especially in the last few years in Class 2A in the South, some really strange things have happened. We could potentially down the line see a rematch between Reeltown and Highland Home.
You could definitely. There's no doubt about that. But I still think that people are going to have problems trying to slow down Kamora Harris. I think B.B. Comer's playing with a level of confidence right now. I do think they're going to have to kick it in gear because I think the strength of schedule has definitely not been something here towards the end of the season, no disrespect to their opponents, that's had them prepared. It didn't stop them last year, so I don't know that it'll stop them this year. But you could see a rematch. I definitely think Reeltown's the team you have to keep an eye on.
He's going with the Reeltown Rebels. That's the 10 picks. We'll see if he can improve on that 8-2. Is that elusive 10-0 out there? We will see. Namath, take care up in Huntsville covering the volleyball regionals for our friends at EAN. You can check out his reports on the Locker Room Show on EAN and also on EAN Local Sports. Have a safe trip back from Huntsville, and we'll be hanging out with you tomorrow night with After the Game on High School Football Alabama.
That's right.
Namath Pitts with High School Football Alabama with Pitts Pick'ems presented by Big Woody's Tires. That's going to wrap up this week's edition of the program. Join us right back here tomorrow evening, 10 o'clock for After the Game.
Whether you're cheering for your team or chasing a personal fitness goal, nothing is more frustrating than an injury that keeps you from the things you love.